I want to talk about my experience with cheek piercings today on Piercing Journeys episode number 1. My name is Scott. I'm the apprentice over at Axiom Body Piercing. I am DaVo's apprentice. Probably know him. He's pretty cool guy. I'm just basically going to get into talking about my experience with cheek piercings. Very obvious. Starting off with why I got them done. Initially I got them done because I liked the way that they looked. I really enjoyed the just appeal of them compared to like other kinds of facial piercings. Because like oral ones, centralized, nostrils, things like that, they just seem different. I already have dimples naturally, so I wanted to get them to accentuate the way that looked, and I really enjoyed my dimples. It's probably one of my favorite things about my face. Yeah. When I first actually found out about facial piercings, those were the first piercings that I found out about, and I thought they looked so awesome and so amazing. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that I already have dimples naturally, so I was like, oh, that'd be really fun to do eventually. I found out about them when I was 10, so, not at that time, but eventually. Next off is my experience in the process. When I first went into the shop, I didn't go to a reputable shop. You're going to find out that very quickly in my explaining of the process. When I went in, I had no explanation. I didn't get any education on the piercings themselves. They were kind of just like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, okay, cool. I'd already got my nostril pierced, but that was my only piercing I had ever gotten. I did get them pierced underage. I was 16, I think, when I got them pierced. I did not get my parental consent yet again. That's kind of a thing with the shop that I probably shouldn't have been going there. Yeah, no parental consent. My mom had no idea about it until she came home, and she was like, oh, what are those? And I was like, oh, cheek piercings, aren't they so cool? When I did get them marked, we kind of went back and forth on the placement. I wanted them more aligned with where my dimples naturally were, but kind of making them look even. And he just wanted to put them right where my dimples kind of caved in. And so we went back and forth on it, and I didn't get a whole lot of input on it. But at the same time, I was uneducated about it, so I just assumed that that's how piercing went, when that's not the case at all. Next, when I was actually getting them pierced, we did this one first, and then the second one, I had passed out after the needle had already went through, and he continued, kind of got a little bit annoyed with me afterwards, when I started to wake up, which knowing now is probably not the best approach to that, but I mean, that's just what happened. When we did finish, I got pierced with a 1/2-inch labret stud, which is not enough room for swelling. It was very snug between my actual the inside of my mouth and where it ended up laying. Not enough room for swelling at all. And then afterwards, after the experience, to say the least, I got no aftercare instructions, no, oh, this is what you're supposed to do with them, this is how you take care of them. Along with that, no explanation beforehand, no, this is how long it's going to heal, just kind of use Bactine on it, which you don't want to use Bactine on a fresh piercing, any piercing, but especially a fresh one, because I'm pretty sure it's rubbing alcohol and lidocaine or something. I have no idea what it is, because I don't tell people to use it. Not my expertise. And then another thing that I didn't notice until after they were pierced, this is kind of in the process, was the fact that they were at a very, very steep angle. I'm pretty sure they were pierced with a 16 gauge, which is very thin, especially for something that small. And the angle was very steep. Let's say it was right here. If I can still feel it, it was right about here where it entered. So that's a solid couple of millimeters in distance. Yeah. And then healing and living with the piercing. The healing time was the entire time that I had those piercings. I had them for a little over 2 years. So that kind of goes to show how badly that angle affected the healing process, meaning it didn't heal at all. I was still getting the crusties on the outside. I was still getting flare-ups, and yeah, it was up until the day that I took them out that I was still experiencing that. These piercings, specifically on this side, got infected 2 separate occasions while I was healing them out. The first time it happened was because the ball fell off, and instead of properly cleaning the jewelry when it fell into my mouth, I just kind of shoved it back through. I was like, oh, it's fine. And then the second time, I am pretty sure I wasn't properly cleaning it. I want to say 9 months into having them, and I was like, oh, they're probably healed by now, and I just quit cleaning them. And so I got another flare up of an infection, and it was not fun at all. Piercing infections, they're gnarly, especially when they're in your mouth. I was constantly having to change the jewelry because of the flare ups that I was experiencing. I think I changed them until I set on the jewelry that I had before I took them out a solid 6 to 8 times with different types of jewelry, and that was mainly because the balls kept falling off, or the inside would break. The disc on the back of the libre would break off, which is not something that you want to experience, especially when you're eating. Yeah. And then when I got to working at Axiom and I started talking with DaVo, we decided to try and stretch them to try and align that from being such a steep angle to being a little bit more straight to see if that would help out with the healing process. And I'd have to say that's probably the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. It was brutal. I don't know how people can stretch their cheeks up to like 2 gauges because that was ridiculous. And then I didn't learn anything about my cheek piercings in general until I had already got them pierced when I started doing a little bit more research for my piercing apprenticeship. I looked more into cheek piercings because DaVo told me he didn't do them because of how dangerous they were, and I looked more into it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm very grateful that nothing, like my saliva ducts didn't get stabbed or anything like that. That I'm not continuously drooling, that my face isn't paralyzed. Yeah, but I had no idea about anything like that, and I definitely feel like that's something my piercer at the time should definitely warn me about. And then we get into the fun part as to why I took them out in the first place. I had an emergency surgery. You're going to notice that with, I believe, 4 more of my piercings. Yeah, I had an emergency surgery in which I didn't have any time to actually take my piercings out. Didn't have time to get like retainers for them. It was kind of just like, you have to take these out now because we're going to cauterize a wound in your throat. So got to take them out. Sorry. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. I didn't want to remove them at all. I really liked them and I was really holding on to them, especially since I did have that, that infection. So I do have some scarring. I could see the scarring that was already there from that. And I knew that I knew deep down that it was going to scar when I took them out. So I was really holding on to them for dear life. I felt like I fought like tooth and nail for them, especially when we stretched them. But I knew for the surgery's sake, for my health, and just for the simple fact of my body continuously trying to heal these piercings, that it was probably for the best that I took them out. And so that's the removal process, why I took them out. Then we get into scarring and abandoning. When I first initially took them out, I had a lot of purple scarring around it, kind of that like stretch mark-ish scarring kind of effect, especially on this one. This one's my problematic one. Don't look at her. She's shy. A lot of purple scarring on it. I also noticed some kind of a little bit of drainage, which was a little bit weird. Like it would get like wet. But yeah. And then now, the stage they're at this point, I'm going to assume this because I'm no dermatologist, but it's like hypotopic scarring, which it's like a little bit, it's not keloid scarring, because I have never had any issues with keloids. It's just a little bit of a bump instead of kind of like collapsing in like my other abandoned piercings. So yeah. And then my last thing, and something that I say with a heavy heart, is if I want the scarring to be completely gone, I kind of either just have to wait for time to take its course, which could take decades for that to do, or I would have to get a cosmetic surgery, which my insurance obviously wouldn't pay for because it's cosmetic, to have them completely gone. And I would still have to wait a year or two before I could do that surgery. So I'm kind of just stuck with these large scars on my face until then. Yeah, that's my experience with cheek piercings. If you have had similar experience or different experiences with them, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear about that. Just because I love about hearing about people's experience with cheek piercings, because I rarely ever see them. Until next time, thank you so much for tuning in to listen to me ramble about myself. Yeah, hope you guys have a great day. Bye.